And as we trust in the Lord, like, you can look back and you just see like all the paths you take, and like, man, that was by the grace of God. Oh, that's why he allowed me to go through that time. Well, everybody, welcome back to another weekly podcast.
Hey, let's
cheers to that.
We both have Disney mugs. I mean, I feel like 9 out of 10 mugs you grab from our house are going to be Disney.
Actually, that's probably pretty accurate. 9 out of 10 is going to be a Disney.
But this one is very cool because it is so nostalgic. It's a Disney California Adventure mug, but it has stuff that is no longer in DCA.
Like the Hollywood Tower of Terror.
Yeah, because that's now Guardians, and it's got Bug's Life, which is gone. So a lot of the stuff on here is no longer, which...
It's funny because
cool.
If you're listening, on the mug, there's a massive like Kermit the Frog that takes up most of the mug.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. Like the ratio of everything on there, and then you have like Kermit,
a big
just
Kermit,
huge.
which Muppet Vision is not there anymore either.
Yeah.
So...
lots going on. And then I have... my mug is awesome. It just says Dad with a Mickey on there. But then it has like DCA and also like Disneyland on the back as well. So
I wish I had the mom one.
And then it has...
You have a lot of like your mugs. You've got like 49ers dad ones. I think because Father's Day, the boys get you mugs a lot. You have Mr. Incredible.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like going through the mugs. I'm like, nope, can't use that. Can't use that.
Well, they know like Dad likes coffee.
That's true.
And so they're like, hey, Dad doesn't wear ties very much. So that's
like
out.
Ever.
So it's a mug for me.
Right.
But then it says Disneyland Resort like right in the rim.
Yeah. Maybe I'll get myself a mom one this trip.
Well, that's what I was saying. Our Disneyland trip's coming up. And there you go.
Yep.
Get your mom mug. I will probably get another Disneyland mug because that's what we do. Like, honestly, like if I have like a hit list of different souvenirs I always try to get on a Disney trip, it's going to be a hat. It's going to be like...
usually like a shirt
or a hoodie or a crew neck or a Spirit jersey and a mug. Those are like my three different things. And then...
you will come home happy.
Sometimes we'll get like some kind of decor for the house, like for the studio. But we're thinking this trip, because it's all like Christmas themed, we're like, hey, let's just get some like Christmas decor. And then we can set it up immediately when we get back.
Well, I definitely want to get an actually like Christmas mug from the parks because we don't have any, and we are very sparse on the Christmas mugs. I was looking through. I'm like, we have like a little set of gingerbread ones, but that's about it. So I'd like to have a good Christmas Disney mug.
Yeah, we have a random set of gingerbread mugs, which I don't even know where they came from. They just showed up one day.
Showed up on our doorstep.
Cool.
But
pretty much.
Anyways, today is Monday, 11/11. It is Veterans Day. So we did want to say, even though you're listening to this after the fact, thank you to all of those that have served or are serving currently in the armed forces.
Yes.
We're so thankful for you. One of my friends did, and I texted her today, and I was like, thank you for service. She's like, thank you so much for saying that. And I'm like, well, it's huge. And I think, too, about like the moms and the wives, the spouses that are, taking care of kids or the household when their spouse is, out serving too. So thank you to those people as well, because that is a hard job. I cannot imagine. So we are very thankful for what you do for our country.
Absolutely.
Yes. So let's give a little week update before we dive into this topic today, which I'm very excited about. But this weekend we had like 500 birthday parties. It felt like,
gosh.
Oh my gosh.
I don't even know.
It was like
why.
Crazy. Tucker's friend had a party, dropped him off at that. Then we had our niece's first birthday, which was so fun and so cute. And then we had it
was like Snow White. It was like Snow White themed.
Yeah, it was fairest one of all, and she turned 1.
Yeah.
So awesome. Love that.
And but they have like a hallway when they enter the house, and they had like the trees, the woods and stuff, because there was like poison apples and stuff.
And the mirror on the wall.
It was definitely on brand.
It was great. And then our son had his birthday a little bit ago, but we celebrated that with some friends. And then your sister's birthday and our nephew's birthday. It was just like
lots going on.
Party city. Ate a lot of unhealthy food and,
and
desserts.
No, literally, like right when Landon's friends left. So basically, like Sunday we had a lot going on. So Sunday we had church. As I'm getting home from church with like Krispy Kreme donuts, because Landon's like, I don't want cake, I want donuts.
He's not a cake guy.
I'm like, I mean, that's brilliant, honestly.
Yeah.
So I come home with donuts. Lacey already picked the pizza. Right when I walk in, there's already people in our house for Landon's birthday. So like I get out of my church clothes and get like my gym attire on, because Landon is playing football with his friends.
Yeah.
So we do that and then hang out, open presents, do the kid's birthday thing. right when, literally,
they're walking out.
Right when they walk out, my family's coming in. It was a revolving door.
It really was.
And then
we're like, let's go do a quick sweep around the house, clean up the bathroom a bit, because we had 8 boys in the house. So
and then they were there late, and we watched the 49ers game. Even though if you follow the 49ers, they played earlier in the day, but we recorded it and waited to watch it till the very end. So it was funny because when parents are coming in for Lana's birthday, I'm like, I have not watched the game yet. So do not tell me.
Well, and some of our friends and family that watch football, and they know we love football. So they're like, you guys watching the game? We're like, no, and please do not share the score.
So I had my phone off almost the whole day.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I don't want to hear anything.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we did that. We watched the game. We ate more junk food. My mom made this amazing fettuccine Alfredo with like Italian sausage.
From scratch. It's so good.
It's so good. And then
my goodness.
She got like cupcakes from this it's called like, what is it called?
Small cakes.
Small cakes.
Yeah.
But they make like custom like cupcakes, and they're so good.
Oh, they're so good.
And it reminded us of like the Hostess cupcakes, like the design.
But on steroids.
Oh my gosh.
Because the frosting was like that thick, and it was just like, they were massive.
It was so good. So we ate a lot of junk, and it took us forever to watch the game because our internet went out like 4 times. We ended up having to like connect to our studio's Wi-Fi.
Thank God we've got 2 separate internets.
It was funny. I forget who said it last night, but they're like, you have 2 internets? I'm like, yeah, we have 2 bills too.
Right. And well, we have to with what we do.
Yeah, we have to because we have to anyway. But so we finally connected to that, and we ended up watching the game, but we paused it so many times because we paused it for gifts, we paused it for dessert, we paused it for dinner. So the game ended up taking like 6 hours to watch.
It was a very long.
Anyway,
and like at one point, and then the coffee got spilled on the floor. We were cleaning that up. And I'm like, just keep going.
By
with
the
game.
way, remember we got new carpet.
Yes.
And we're like, hey guys, hopefully if we spill again, because the reason why we got new carpet, it was under warranty because it was like Stainmaster brand, wasn't supposed to stain, especially with coffee spills. That's why we bought it.
Yeah.
But it did stain, and we had to get new carpet.
Right.
And we're talking like, hopefully if this happens again, God forbid.
Yeah, it actually works this time around.
Guess what, guys? It spilled because Junie came in like a wrecking ball.
Oh, gosh.
And just destroyed everything.
Knocked over your sister's coffee.
Yeah, and it went everywhere. But it came right up.
It came right up. And it was interesting because it like some of it splashed under the couch, and I couldn't see all of it. So we ended up moving the couch, and some of the spots that spilled, it was like floating on top of the carpet.
Like it should. We bought it.
That's what they said it would do, though.
Yeah,
and
right.
I was like, yes.
Yeah.
And so it didn't even soak in. And I'm talking, it was like 20 minutes later, and it was
didn't
still like,
it was under, some of it was under the couch. We didn't see it.
And it was still, you could see it just sitting, like resting on the top. It's like it's got the special barrier, which it was supposed to have, so it doesn't stain. And it came right up. So
yeah,
we got to test out our carpet.
It was great. Also,
I was like, the first spill, it's going to happen eventually, especially with our household in.
So yeah,
yay.
Pause the game for
There
that.
we go.
Also, Steven the Fly is in our studio still.
I just saw him.
It's November.
I know,
Steven.
it's right behind you.
Like, let's see how long he can last. That's where I'm at.
He just wants to stick around for the holidays.
Lastly, though, the game that we watched, the 49ers versus Tampa Bay, was awesome because Christian McCaffrey was back if you're a 49ers fan.
CMC,
but,
as they say.
Like, literally, I honestly think, like, people in our neighborhood could probably hear us, how loud we were as a family. Because that fourth quarter was one of the most stressful, entertaining games I've watched in a very long time.
Okay, but are we going to talk about how proud we were of Miss Juniper, though? Holy cow.
Yeah, okay, so Juniper went to bed probably third quarter. Mm-hmm. And mind you, like I don't even know what time it was because the game took
so long. It was late, yeah.
So we were watching the fourth quarter, and I've never heard our house that loud. The decimals in that house
here's
were
the thing.
So loud.
You are loud just by yourself. Then you have your son you've trained to be so dramatic and loud as well. So Landon's screaming. Then we have our brother-in-law, Mike.
I feel like it's fun watching football like that, though.
Everybody's screaming. Well, you have to. And we have all, like, it's besides Junie, we have, nephews. So there's boys and they're screaming.
And everyone, and you think about this. Everyone's wearing 49ers gear, jerseys. Yeah. So everyone's, like, and why I say that is because we're all huge Niners fans.
Yes, everybody
in
the
family. So we're all into it. Mm-hmm. Our eyes are all glued to the TV.
But anyways, Junie's room is literally right off to the living room. Like, it's the first door. She's right there. And they are screaming at the top of their lungs and cheering and clapping. She's sound asleep. How did she sleep through all of that? Honestly, I'm like, I guess it's the third child. We're like, we don't even care anymore. We don't give a crap. Like, it's just, but in the first one, we're like, just be quiet.
Yeah.
I mean, we tell the boys, be quiet. She's taking a nap, whatever.
Even
but
with Landon, we kind of got over that pretty fast. All of our kids slept really good because we kind of trained them that way. But like especially Junie though,
it's crazy.
If she goes to bed, she's done.
Yeah.
It's almost like white noise for her.
I think it
when
is.
She hears the boys yelling or running down the hallway or whatever.
Because our house is never quiet.
No, she's like, oh, this is nice. Everyone's having fun. I can she's in her happy place.
Yeah, maybe.
But she was a trooper. I mean, this morning I woke up and I'm like, can we just talk about Junie for a minute? Like,
because it happened, but nobody talked about it this morning. And I'm like, you're right. That's crazy how loud we were.
Yeah. Anyway, that was a fun game.
Yeah.
Our kicker is horrible, but whatever. Move on from that. We barely won, which is great. So anyway, I know you guys don't come here for football content. However, it's just part of my life.
It's part of our weekend.
So yeah.
Yep. Anyways, our topic today, shall we dive in? I thought about it this morning. We were kind of talking about it, and I was like, I'm really excited about it because it's all going to be on just personal growth and just in Justin and I. We've known each other now. Well, we've been married for 14 years, known each other. We met in high school, if you guys didn't know. So like 17, 18 years, I would say.
Yeah.
And I would say we are...
Give or take,
Yeah. Completely different people from when we met each other. The Justin and Lacey back in whenever we met, 2005 till now. And we're going to talk about
our styles changed even.
Yeah. I mean, I'd hope so. As much as I loved your studded belt and your white beanie that you wore to school.
I thought you were going to talk about my
Thank God you are not
V's.
wearing that anymore. Oh, and the deep V's.
Guys,
and the skinniest jeans you can ever find in the world.
Well,
that was Justin.
I was in a touring band.
Can we share the story about the white beanie?
Yeah.
Okay. So, you guys know the beanies that we're in with the bill?
Yeah.
Cool. They're cool, right?
It was from Volcom or Volcom.
Yeah, Volcom. Yeah, that's the brand.
Volcom.
And I mean, it was cool, but it was white. I was just like, really?
Sue me.
And so Justin just wore this beanie all the time. Like, if you know Justin, you're literally wearing a beanie today. And we went to the movies? Yeah. We went to the movies with some friends, and he took it off in the theater, and he left it, and I knew he left it, and I didn't say anything. Because I thought I did not like that beanie. And so later on, you're like,
it was like $28.
Later on, you're like, oh shoot, I left my beanie.
No, yeah. But then you didn't. But you didn't tell me that you knew about it until like years later.
No, I did
not. By the way,
you remember the time you left your beanie?
I think it got brought up in conversation about
with our buddy Tommy. Yeah, we were always making fun.
I think there was a picture. And I was like, oh my gosh, my white beanie. Oh, I forgot. I remember I lost that thing. I was so bummed.
Yeah.
And then she's like, actually,
I knew you
lost it. Anyway.
Anyways, so we're not going to talk about just our growth in our style. But
one thing I want to share, because we talked about deep V's, and I want to make sure we finish that conversation.
We can't just leave that one hanging.
So I was in a band, and we toured, and so we kind of had to go with had to be on brand.
For sure.
So I wore skinny jeans and the deepest of V's ever. Mm-hmm. But I want to share one story about my deep V.
Okay.
So my deep V's would honestly come down like midpoint of my chest, like probably maybe 8 inches off my belly button.
You found them at deepestv's.com.
Well, I actually, no, I got them at, what was that place called? What
was
it called?
American Apparel? No.
American Apparel.
I thought it was Urban Outfitters. No,
I got a couple things I got other things at Urban Outfitters, but I got my DVs from American Apparel.
Oh, yeah.
And they were does that place exist anymore?
I don't know. Because there were the deep V's, but then they were almost it was like a
No, this is insane deep V. I mean it's insane, guys. Let me tell you the story though. So I remember we were playing a show, and this was a pretty big show, and at the end of the show we were kind of packing up, all that kind of stuff. And I was packing up my drums, and this little girl, I don't know, she's probably 10, 11, 12 around there. She comes running up to the stage and just wants to get our autographs. And so we're like, sure. So we gave her a free t-shirt and just kind of autographed it, whatever. And I dropped the Sharpie that I was autographing with, and I went to pick it up. And the mom came, and when I was grabbing the Sharpie, my deep V, it was so deep that she can see all inside my chest. Just my whole stomach. And so when I was
chest hairs.
So when I was coming up, her eyes were right all here. And it's just the funniest moment. I remember to this day when I was coming up, we locked eyes, and she's just like basically she saw it all. But it was such this weird moment, and I always remember that. Whenever I think of my deep V's, I remember that moment.
Remember that mom's eyes
because she was so horrified at what was going on, and I'm just like my eyes are up here, kind of mentality.
Oh my God.
So stupid. Anyway,
so did that defer you from wearing those anymore?
no, I kept on wearing them.
Oh, okay.
That's what
You liked the shock value it gave people?
There's pictures. There's all kinds of pictures floating around, even on the interwebs. There's videos on the interwebs of my deep V's. I'm not going to tell you where to find those at, but they're still there. We still have vlogs from our band.
We need to find some of those.
They're there.
Show our boys. They'd be like, Dad, what were you wearing? Anyways, we done with the deep V's and the white beanie stories.
We wore Toms. Remember Toms?
Oh, absolutely. I had the black sparkly ones. Some
people wear them.
Yeah, I don't think the classic Toms I don't see as much, but they have different styles of them now.
So you'd see Justin with Toms, skinny jeans, deep V, and a floppy beanie. Like the
flop ones, yeah.
That's what you'd see,
right?
Just running around.
And then I'd be in the layered tank tops. That was the scene for me.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think. Yeah, I had Toms too. I had sparkly black ones.
Anyway.
Good times.
Wow.
So we're gonna be talking about the change and transformation that has happened in my life and Justin. We'll talk about a little bit with our marriage too, what that's changed and looks like. But there's some areas in our life, I'd say big life transitions, milestones, one of them becoming parents and how that's changed us. But then there's a few other things we're going to, I mean, I don't know about you. But yeah, and just kind of, where we're at today, I think it'll be a good conversation. And in the end, Justin and I are going to share one thing that I've noticed about him that's changed. And this is all for the better. And then vice versa, that you've seen in me as well. So for me, I'm going to go over just kind of some my big life transition milestones. And I think two of those that came up to my mind would be becoming a mom and then also going back to college. I ended up going back to school when we were married, and I was actually pregnant with our first Landon. So I'm going to talk about that first because I feel like that was a big turning point in a lot of areas in my life of who I am today. And I kind of look back at the Lacey. Do you ever look back on yourself and you're like, wow, that, you don't even almost recognize yourself in a sense. But I look back at the Lacey before then, and I was very insecure in a lot of areas of thinking I was not good enough for things. And one of the things I really wanted to do was teach. And that was a big goal of mine. I just always wanted to be a teacher. And I went to Bible college and I got my associate's degree at a Bible college, and they had a Christian education program, but it was just my associate's. So you couldn't really do much with that, in the school realm, you needed your bachelor's. But I just never, I don't know, I just struggled so bad, thinking I could do that. And my confidence just was not there. And so I had this opportunity at our school to teach, and our principal, it's at a Christian school, and so you can they let within their school they can let teachers teach without a bachelor's, and he was going to give me that opportunity, but he said I needed to go back, be in school working towards this when I do it. And so I talked to Justin about it, and I was like, I can't do it. I can't. And I was just in tears. He's like, let's just take the first step. Let's apply to college. Let's look into colleges. Let's do this. He really had to help me. And I was just I felt like a kid, kicking and screaming. I was just so against it because I didn't think I could do it. I truly was just so down on myself. I don't think I could do this. I can't do school. I was still going to be working. And I was also pregnant, and I was like, there's no way. And then it's it wasn't the most ideal time, but it was part of what, our principal asked of me. And so needless to say, I did it with the help of you. So Justin really just came alongside of me during that time.
We had a kid.
Yeah.
Our first kid, which changes everything.
Right.
You were working full time.
I was.
Teaching still.
Yep.
Because they gave you that plan of if you're in school, you can have this job
right.
kind of thing. And you're going
back to college.
Full-time college.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
And I think it prepared me for things in many ways. And also I was involved in our church I've always have been. I think during that time I was doing youth ministry with you as well.
Yeah.
But it was just, a whole new world going back. I remember I was teaching, and so like on my lunch break or on, when the kids are at recess, I was writing papers and I was doing my school on the weekends. I was writing papers. I was doing homework
while feeding Landon.
Yes. And then when, we had Landon, I remember literally after giving birth to him, I was like learning how to breastfeed.
The cool thing is at the school we were at, they had like a nursery.
They did. Yeah.
So you're able to like have him at the nursery, go teach, pick him up, feed him while you're writing papers.
Yeah.
Put him back in nursery, go back to your class.
Yeah.
Like it was insane.
Insane. And
like, I don't think that's honestly like I don't think people realize like your sphere of people and your family and friends truly how busy and intense that was. That was a lot.
It was.
A new baby changes everything.
Yeah.
But you're doing that, teaching full time.
And going to school.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how you did it.
And so
it was by the grace of God.
It really was. And that's a huge part. I just had to rely on him so much because I had so much fear of the unknown. I'm a person that I like to know the answers to everything and what I'm getting into. And the unknown is so hard for me. Like, I'm the type of person, like, even if I'm driving to a new spot and I don't know where it's at, I almost like want to go there the day before so I know where it's at, where to park. Like, that's just me. And I just feel safe that way. So going into school blindly because like none of my siblings went to college, my parents didn't. So it was very new for me. And it was like I had to figure out everything on my own. And obviously Justin walked through it with me. So figuring that all out, and it was a lot. And then financially figuring out how to do that. But I do remember on my breaks, like even when I was breastfeeding, I was like pumping during recess and then I was writing papers on the weekends. Like it was very difficult. And I look back and I'm like, wow, like I'm so proud of you, Lacey. Like I can't believe you did that, and I went through those times and I think it really built me into who I am today. But needless to say, I finished college. I got my bachelor's degree in elementary education. And not even that, I graduated with straight A's. Like, that was nuts. I was just like, I just want to get this done. But I was like, I can't believe I did that. Like, I got a little, what do they wear? Those little gold ribbons on my graduation.
Yeah.
And you came with the boys. We had Tucker there. We drove down to Phoenix and to Arizona. Because
she was doing
I was doing it online.
School.
Yeah, but I was just like, after it was done, I just kind of looked back and I was, how did I do that? And how did I do it so well, almost? But I was just like, honestly, the biggest things was like, Justin was, like there by my side, like encouraging me. Like he had to pick up a lot of the slack with the kids during that time too, because I was writing papers on the weekends or after school. And then,
we had Tucker too, right?
By the time I graduated, we had Tucker, yes. Because it took me a little bit longer.
It took you
because I started taking just like a couple, like
more it started part-time, then went to full-time. So we had Landon, because they're 2 years and 2 months apart.
Right.
So it was like, basically Landon, and then it took about probably like 3 years to finish-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I was working full-time the whole time I was doing it.
Two kids in that time frame as well.
Yeah.
I guess the thing that really showed me through that too was like, just start today. I think when you want to start something new, if that's like, a diet or a workout or going back to school or a new job or whatever, and you can kind of get in your head of like, oh man, maybe it's too late, or maybe it's, whatever. It's not too late. Today's the day. Today is the best day to do that. And I think that was kind of the mentality where Lacey's like, oh man, I think it's just too busy in life. But now think about it. If we did it today, it would have been way busier in life.
Well, and that's the thing.
So I think it's all about just starting today.
That was my excuse though, because I remember when I had that opportunity, I was thinking, it's not a good time. I'm pregnant, and I'll just do school. Once I have him, or I'll once do this. And I remember you saying that. You're like, if you don't do it now, you're not going to ever do it.
It's never a good time.
It's never a good time.
It's all about prioritizing.
Yeah.
I think we learned that, and so that's why we take that in a lot of other things where it's like, you know what? It's just it's a prioritized game.
I do look back at this time and this milestone as a big turning point in me and a lot of change, because I had to let go of a lot of things. And I feel like, especially becoming a new mom, like there were so many things that were out of my control. And that's where I just had to like let go. And that changed me for the better, because I had to let Justin take over things that was hard for me when I was like, no, I want to do it this way. Or, just with, Landon and learning to be a mom and stuff. And so it was really for the better. And it was honestly, I think I just kind of needed that too, because I could not do it all with, going to school and working and everything else, to just let go a little bit. And I had to like surrender a lot, like just like, Lord, you have to take care of this because I can't do it right now. Or Justin, I'm really gonna need your help, doing this. Because I had a hard time just like asking for help with stuff. And I feel like that was just a big turning point in changing who I was. But I do always look back on that time. And I think just getting through just my schooling and just that season. And I always think about like, wow, like before then, I had no confidence in what I could do. And so when I saw that, I was like, wow, like why was I so down on myself? You know what I mean? And so that really was a big milestone. I feel like that changed me from the inside out, and like that whole experience for sure. But then the second milestone, I guess, within that was like, becoming a mom. So I just wanted to speak to that a little bit too, because having Landon was just like a huge, huge change in both of us, I would say, because, we were, Justin and Lacey, it was just us, for 5 years. We were married without any kids. And so when we had Landon, it was just, it was a game changer, as it is for everybody with their first kid. So learning to take care of, a little human, not knowing what the heck we're doing, not knowing how we are going to be when we have lack of sleep, and learning things and getting frustrated and being scared when he's sick, or just, all of that. And like, it's a whole new dynamic that came into our relationship. And so that, I think, was another big milestone. I would say that changed both of us for the better, because we both had to become a lot more selfless because we were taking care of, Landon, and just like figuring that out. And also it brought us to a whole new level of like teamwork, you know what I mean? Because it was a thing that it was not all on me and not all on you. We had to figure it out together. So I think that was another one for sure. And then, adding Tucker to the mix, and then, now we got Juniper. It's just like, I know we finally, by the third one, I feel like we're like, okay, I think we somewhat know what we're doing with the
now
kids.
We can scream at a football game.
I know, she's still sleeping.
But yeah, I think it definitely taught us too, like, because we've had a lot of people throughout the years ask us like, how do you guys still like, do travel and own a business and in ministry and all those different things, and still feel like life still goes even with kids, because there's a lot of times where life stops, it seems like, when kids are in the picture. And I think we give credit to these years where we had to push ourselves, because life had to continue to go. You had to get your papers written. You had to study for your test. We had to work. Life still had to happen. You know what I mean? And I think that's what pushed us to be like, okay, well, it'd be nice if we could just like stop everything we used to do and just like sit at home with the kid, but it wasn't an option. And so, but then we realized, what, like, that's the life we want. We want our kids to be on our schedule, not us be on their schedule. And it really laid the foundation for a lot of things. And through having all of that, I think really equipped us for today, like what we're doing today. Like it's what happened in the very beginnings of our, family, if you will, that really equipped us for how we can handle things, today.
Right. But, and when we say that, like, we didn't want to be on their schedule, like we like, we're not ignorant. Like, we had to change a lot because, kids have nap time and they have bedtime, and we had to rethink a lot of things. Like, we understand that, but we also wanted to not stop doing the things that we love to do.
Right.
And also bring
naturally slow
kids
down,
along with that too. I just wanted to say that.
Not just like stop because you think about it, there's times when you're like, you're like, I do not want to go do that. I just want to sit at home. We have kids. I don't want to go socialize. I don't want to whatever. But those are the times where like, no, like, let's push ourselves. Like, this would be good for us to get out, to do something, to whatever. And I think that those are decisions you have to make. And there's sometimes you don't want to do it. But I was proud of ourselves because we still did it. Yeah. Like,
Mine too.
I mean, there was, we even had the option to not, drive down to graduate you in Phoenix. We could have just got your diploma in the mail. Right. But those are the kind of decisions like, no, we're going to do this. We're going to road trip with two babies you know, down to Phoenix.
Yeah.
Which was so many miles in the car.
Yeah, it was.
But those are the kind of decisions I'm glad we did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, life slowed down naturally with, you know, nap times and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and we have a baby.
Right.
But then the things that we could have just been like, oh man, like it's too hard.
Right.
We didn't let hard in the vocabulary, I guess. Yeah. It's like, we're not going to say it's too hard not to do it. If there's a way, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the mentality we've always had, is hard doesn't scare us.
Mm-hmm.
We look at it and, you know, you can look at it and be like, oh man, that's going to be hard. But it's like, no, we're going to push through it. And I think because of those early days, like when we see something that's hard or there's something coming up that's going to be crazy or busy or whatever, it's like we don't just go back in a hole. We're like, all right, let's go for this, you know?
Yeah.
And it's easier for us to just kind of like, you know, start eating the elephant, so to speak. You know,
Right.
we're not freaked out because there's a lot to eat.
Right,
you know,
definitely.
The whole elephant illustration.
Yeah, bite at a time.
One bite at a time.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was, you know, one of my, I would say, looking back, big milestones. Going back to college, becoming a mom really changed me. I think a lot of it, I feel like before those moments, like, and you, I mean, you know me, you know how I tick, but like, I feel like I was a little bit too like controlling on those ends of it. So like, I'm thankful for those areas where I was just be like, I just had to like let go of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like everything had to be like perfect. You know what I mean? When it's never perfect. But that was just like my mentality. Like, I really wanted everything to be perfect. Like, it had to go this way. And if it didn't, like, I just couldn't cope. And I was just like, Justin's very like, it is what it is. You know what I mean? And so you helped me in that aspect, but it wasn't a thing where you were like judgy to me, like you need to chill out or anything. It was just like, because of these circumstances, like I just kind of had to do it. And like, I mean, you walk through it with me, but I feel like that was one of the biggest changes in me for the better.
Well, I think it started with small things.
Back.
Like, for example, like the house was a mess, or something like that. It's a busy season or whatever. I'm working hard. Mm-hmm. Lacey's working in school with the kids, coming home with the kids. And sometimes the house just doesn't get clean. And Lacey would be hard on herself. And I'm like, what? Who cares? Like, we can wait till the weekend to get this place clean. Mm-hmm. That is not a priority. The priority is keeping our humans alive that we have.
The kids are fed.
Getting your school done.
Taken care of. Yeah, your
you know,
school.
And us, you know, not getting sick because we're working. You know, it's just like, it was learning how to prioritize, even if that means that something that you really want to be done can't be done right away.
Yeah.
You know
and I think I just felt like almost like I was letting you down or myself. And I'm like, the laundry's not done. I don't have dinner for you, or the house isn't clean. And you were just like, why do you think you had to have this all done? And I'm like, I don't know. I would have all these expectations on myself all the time.
I think that's what started us too. Because we get asked the question like, well, who does what? Like, who does what in the house? Like, as far as chores go, I think that's what started us. Like, if it needs to be done, we just pitch in.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's what really started that, is like, you know, because it wasn't a thing where it's like, oh, I come home like, why is this or this? You know what I mean?
No, like, I know, but it's just funny because that was never you. And I never wanted to marry somebody like that, where they're like, where's dinner, honey? Like, and where's this? And I sit down with my newspaper. You know what I mean? But it's just like,
first off, I don't think I've ever
sat down and read the newspaper.
I actually used to be a newspaper carrier.
But it's like, you did. I had these like expectations on myself that were so unattainable. It was just a joke. And so when I didn't meet them, I just crumbled. And you were like, who's like putting this on you? And I'm like, obviously it was myself. So letting go of that made me such a freer,
well,
happier
it was just
person.
I'm like, I live here too. I make a mess too. So it's like, it's not on you to do this. It's on me to do this as well.
Yeah.
So we would sit down and be like, okay, what are some things that need to get done? And we make a list. We do this to this day sometimes. Like, if I'm overwhelmed or Lacey's overwhelmed, we'll both sit down and be like, I feel overwhelmed. Okay, what are some things that can take off your plate? And things that normally I lean towards or she leans towards, she'll pick up the slack, and I'll, you know, and we do that. And I think we've learned that, number one, if the house needs to be picked up or vacuumed or whatever, Lacey doesn't just wait for me to do it, and I don't just wait for her, unless it's the trash. Lacey will always wait for me for the trash.
Justin, you see that trash over there piling up.
There's one thing where she's
it's like the leaning tower of pizza, pizza right now.
Leaner towers of pizzas.
The leaning tower pizza, because it'll just get full and full.
Unless it's the trash, she'll wait. She doesn't care. But most of the time, like, you know, it's like we both live in the house.
Yeah,
we're both going to pitch in
together.
I think we learned that from those days.
Mm-hmm.
because it was just we all had to pitch in.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But now that I think about that time in my life, something that comes up to me in my mind with you is when you were working like 40 hours a week at Apple, 30, sometimes 40 hours a week at the church. And we had Landon and Tucker. And that was a busy time for you.
I mean, it wasn't quite 40 at Apple. It was like in the 30s.
Was it? Okay. So you're doing like...
I was like 40 at the church,
you
30s.
were like 60 hours, I'd say, between the two, right?
I would say, 60 to 70 hours.
And you were working every Saturday?
I didn't have a day off for like, what was it? Was it 3 years?
Time. Yeah, you did not have a day off.
For 3 years, I worked Monday through Sunday.
Yeah.
And after church on Sunday, I would go to Apple and work
some days you did.
Shift in the evening.
Yeah.
To the point where I remember us celebrating that. I think it's actually in one of our vlogs. I think it's one of our first vlogs we ever put out.
Because you had a Saturday off.
That's when we started vlogging. Actually, that's our first vlog.
Well, I remember you would come home and you'd be like, when we had that Saturday off, you were like, so this is what you guys do on Saturdays? Like me and the kids. Because we were alone every Saturday. You were always working the weekends.
So, for about 3 years, I would say.
Yeah.
Not at all. And then I got to the point where I'm like, okay, I feel like we can afford it a little bit to like take a day off.
Yeah.
And I remember like that first day off and I'm like, what is this?
What do I do with myself?
Like rest. It was so nice.
You were kind of uneasy at first.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was crazy.
You like couldn't quite relax the first time.
Well, we got married and that was lean times. Mm-hmm. And then when we had kids and we got married college,
during the recession, 2010. Yeah. It was like right after the recession. Yeah.
We wanted to buy a house. Mm-hmm. I remember that. So we sold your car to get a house. We barely got a house. Yeah. But that was like our goal. Like if we don't get a house now, when do we get a house?
And this is why, because during that time, nobody could buy houses.
Nobody could.
And if you bought a house, they were giving you like $8,000.
This was like an 08, right?
Yeah.
08.
Because the housing market was
so we got a house,
horrible.
And that was great. But it was lean.
Yeah.
Like there was no jobs. Mm-hmm. There was nothing.
Nothing was
hiring. We were both working. I mean, okay, this is before kids.
Yes.
I guess we're all
we're
over the
backtracking.
Place. So before kids, that was what's going on. We were both working like several jobs just to like make ends meet.
Right.
I remember literally there was times where I would work 3 jobs in a day. Mm-hmm. I would start early in the morning, then I would switch the afternoon, and then an evening shift. Mm-hmm. Like just because no one was hiring. No. So we're just trying to make ends meet, that kind of thing. And it was lean, and also with kids. Anyway, that being said, we learned to just work. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? We learned just to like put in the time, to have good work ethic, to realize that money doesn't grow on trees. We learned how to manage our money during that time because we had to, because we had like hardly any money.
Yeah.
We learned, honestly, like a lot of the stuff that we implement in our business now totally was from the early days.
Yeah, for sure. I think during this time is like, because it was, it was lean and we had to like really figure things out and be on a budget, was also part of like us growing both each other, I say during this time a lot. Because both of us, if you watch our channel, listen to us, we love to travel. And that was a huge part of our life. And so we still wanted to continue to do that through this time too. So we would like save for certain trips, for certain things. We'd say no to certain things so we could still travel with the kids and do trips. But that was like a big part, I guess I would say, too, just like learning to, work together during these times as well.
To prioritize and what's important to us, and also learning to save and living within our means and all that kind of stuff. And it was huge. It was just like I think we needed those times to understand how to manage money.
I do too.
We needed those times to learn finances, to learn what to do, what not to do, to learn how to communicate, to learn how to be content.
Yeah. That's the biggest one.
I mean, Paul says in the Bible, I learned to be content, like that, the key word learned. And, he learned to be content with a lot and learned to be content with a little. And we had to learn to be content with a lot. We've had to learn to be content with a little. Mm-hmm. That helped us in so many different ways, like for today. And as we trust in the Lord, like we can look back and you just see like all the paths you take. And you're like, man, that was by the grace of God. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's why he allowed me to go through that time. Oh, that's why I went through this time, because it prepared me for this time. And it's crazy when you kind of backtrack, your life, you're like, wow, all those lean times, those hard times, those frustrating times taught us how to manage money. Mm-hmm. It taught us how to own a business later on in life. It taught us how to, be an entrepreneur, to create, because we had to be very creative back in the day. with different things.
Right.
You know, in I don't know. There's just
Learn
a lot.
contentment and with where we're at, what we have.
How to communicate.
Yeah.
Because there was times that we had to learn to communicate without seeing each other very often.
That's
because
for
we
sure.
it'd be 2 ships in the night.
Yeah.
It would be literally, I would be coming home from work while she'd be getting up for her barista job.
Yeah, we did that for a long time.
I had a paper out. I mentioned that. I paper out.
This was before
coming
kids.
Home about 3:30 in the morning. She'd be up by 4.
Because I was going to work at the coffee shop.
And we'd be like and we shared a car. So I would have to get home, pick you up, take you. I would come home and sleep for 2 hours to pick you up. You know.
Yeah.
Dang. I'm just saying that was insane.
I know.
You forget about that stuff.
You really do.
But you kind of have to look back and be like, wow, God is faithful, because ultimately, yeah, it was hard, and there were some nights and days when I was just like, what are we doing? Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't trade it for the world, because that really prepared us for like down the road and beyond.
Yeah.
I mean,
being parents together, owning a business together, working in ministry together, you know what I mean? And then also, like, that's a huge area, I would say, in growth. And both of us was, you know, going from fighting to now, like, we rarely fight. Like, we all have arguments and tiffs. But before, like, I don't know, just, I always
it's usually over creative, just like disagreements.
Usually. But I think back then, like, when we would get in fights, like, I would always think Justin was just, like, out to get me and, like, out to hurt me and, like, had bad intentions. And the more I got to know him, and it's just, like, which is cool. Like, we've known each other, like I shared, like, 17 years. And I feel like we're still getting to know each other. Take. Yeah, okay. But just getting to know each other more, and the more I know your heart, I'm like, he has no intention to hurt or harm me. But it's like I would look, like, basically on past relationships I had with other boyfriends or anybody else and just be like, well, you're just out to get me, almost, kind of a thing. And then when I actually saw his heart in it, I was just like, oh, okay. Because I feel like I was always the one that was like, you want to fight? Like, I was just a little bit more, I was like, not as much as the peacekeeper.
After school, in the parking lot.
At the playground, buddy.
It's like, jeez, bro.
Like, I just felt like I always came in, like, defensive.
Yeah.
Totally. You would agree with that.
Oh,
defense mode.
And I would just be like, I don't I literally,
and you'd be like, where is this
but I've had to learn, I had to learn how to communicate through that, because then I'm like, well, maybe it's my tone, maybe it's how I said it, maybe like, and I'd have to be like, look, babe, I literally 100% promise you, I did not mean it like that at all. And I would have to like, think about how I say it, because, you know, it's in the tone, it's in the wording and the verbiage and all that kind of stuff. And I had to kind of like train myself in how I have to think before I spoke, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Think before you speak.
Yes.
Because I had to make sure that, okay, am I saying this in a way where it's like, I'm just curious about it. Like, I'm not trying to offend her about it, you know, that kind of stuff.
Right. And I think we've shared this before, but Justin is very much like, let's just get this worked out, talk it out, and it takes me some time to process. And so early on in our marriage, when we would have things and arguments and like fights to deal through,
which that was like our very first podcast, by the way.
Yeah, you can go listen to that one. We won't share the whole fight, but I will share a snippet from it. But when we were in the midst of this fight and it was lasting for days and just back and forth, and Justin said, you know, I'm just like, I'm done. I'm going to bed. Like, I didn't want to talk about it anymore. And he, being the pastor he is, brought up the verse in the Bible, you know, and says, not to let the sun go down on your anger. And I was like, the sun is already down, because it was like midnight by this time.
That's when it clicked. And we both started laughing, because we're just like,
like, this is ridiculous.
Why would I even say that? Like, why would I even, hey, Lacey,
don't let the sun go down on your
some
anger.
Just like judgmental, you know, whatever. And then Lacey's like, and we both started laughing. But
yeah,
I think that's when we actually, I don't know if we brought that up in that podcast or not.
I don't remember.
I think that's when we realized we have to have sense of humor.
Yeah.
Like, our marriage really has to have humor. Mm-hmm. And I think because that time was so stressful, there was so much going on. And honestly,
so, I mean, that was like our first year of marriage. Yeah. So it was hard.
But I think like we
hardly saw each other.
Yeah.
So crazy.
But I think even today we've realized like humor has to be part of our life.
Right.
Because like there's some weeks where we have to just laugh, because I'm like, this week's nuts. Mm-hmm. And you just laugh about it, you laugh through it. And but honestly, like, I don't know, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like, you know, I love our life. I love what we get to do. I love that we get to, you know, I love that we get to have like arguments now that are not like fist fights. They're never fist fights.
They were in the beginning.
But fist fights.
Oh, I know.
I'm like,
I thought you meant like more intense fights. Like we were like, you know, matches in that sense. Yeah, I'm just really thankful we're at that point. I would say like, you know, this topic of like change, like from where we were then till now, as far as arguments go, night and day. But would you say?
Yeah, but I want to be real. Like we argue still. I think we share that, but like it's a different kind of argue. So we kind of know each other. Like for example, okay, we've learned, and this is something I learned at Apple, and again, you look through you look back and you see things you picked up that really helped you along the way.
Yeah.
One of the things was I learned assume positive intent.
Mm-hmm.
And
that is your key word.
But the phrasing of that it clicked with me in that season where I was at, because I remember like we weren't assuming positive intent with each other. And I realized something like, wait a second, she's not out to get me. I'm not out to get her. Why?
She wants
why
the
are
best
we,
for me.
Yeah.
I want the best for her.
Why are we thinking like? Why are we assuming the worst?
Right.
And so that was a game changer in our relationship, where it's like, okay, let's assume a positive intent here. Mm-hmm. I don't think she's literally trying to piss me off here. Like, I mean,
sometimes
in the beginning of it though, like the core of it, like maybe when we're fighting, yes, we're at the point where we want to irritate each other. But like in the very beginning, like let's assume positive intent. And so then we started realizing, okay, there's obvious buttons that we shouldn't press. Mm-hmm. We started learning those because we didn't know those. And then we started having the thing called face-to-face time. So we would actually like discuss and communicate, like, well, what was it that set you off? Mm-hmm. What was the trigger point? What was the button
tone
press?
Of my voice, yeah.
All those different things. We started really just dissecting and communicating and assuming positive intent and
with
then
each other.
Also, the other thing was never assume assure. Mm-hmm. Like never just assume.
I assume you knew that.
I assume you knew that.
I don't need to tell you I love you. I just assume you knew that I married you.
Yeah, but that was huge, honestly.
Justin never said that. I just think it's hilarious when people say that. Like, are you kidding me? I'll ask Justin. I was like, "Do you love me?" He's like, "Yes." I'm like, "Well, you didn't tell me like in the past couple hours, so just wanted to know."
I try to say I love you like every day. I try to.
I think you do.
I think I do. But anyway, again, I think those are three different things. Mm-hmm. Assuming positive intent.
Mm-hmm. Don't assume
assure. What was the third thing? Oh, face-to-face time.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, face-to-face time. Mm-hmm. Like, we took a class early on in our marriage called Love and Respect, and they talked about this thing called the crazy cycle. Mm-hmm. And it was this thing where you can get in because I don't feel respected, she doesn't feel loved. And
therefore, I don't respect you, and you don't love.
And then we're just in the cycle, and then where does it stop? It doesn't stop until someone in the relationship needs to step up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And be like, wait a second, we're in the crazy cycle. Let's talk about this. Mm-hmm. And I think number one, learning to have the right verbiage to talk and say those things. Like, hey babe, I think we're in the crazy cycle. Let's have some face-to-face time. Let's actually go to dinner. Let's talk it out. Let's look at each other in the eyes.
Right.
And come up with a game plan. Just having those little conversations stopped it. Mm-hmm. And then we discussed, well, this hurt me because you said this, and I've been like, babe, I didn't mean it like that at all. This is what I meant. And then we're like, okay, I just assumed that you said this, and basically we were able to work it out from there. So that's definitely been something that has completely changed in our marriage. But now fast forward to 2024, Justin and Lacey.
Yeah.
It's crazy, night and day of what our arguments look like.
Oh, I would.
There are more
so
just
agree.
Disagreements.
Yeah.
Like two adults disagreeing on something, and we'll get kind of salty with each other. We'll get kind of hangry with each other.
Right.
But end of the day, we got a little salty with each other earlier today before this podcast, because we're talking about the calendar and how to organizing the calendar, and we just saw it two different ways.
Yeah.
And anyway, but it was a creative disagreement like we usually have, and we get over it, we laugh about it, and we finish the job.
Yeah.
So
one of my things, I don't know, we haven't even talked about this, but I don't know if you've noticed this lately. When you ever ask your significant other something and they don't know, and you know how they I'll be like, hey, do you know where this is at? You're like, I don't know. You're like, okay, like you don't have to be like,
I don't know, Margot.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Oh,
I've noticed we've both been doing that lately. I don't know, Margot, because then it makes it just like again, like bringing that like that comic relief into it.
But you still feel like you can be a little bit passive aggressive.
Yes, I don't know, Margot. If you guys know what
That's
movie
the
that
key.
is,
If you
comment below.
Yeah, if you can still be a little bit passive aggressive, be a little salty, but have some humor, it's
It
perfect.
makes it all good. I was like,
because it's so hard to be mad, but you know that they're salty, but it's like in a way you kind of like chuckle about it.
Yeah,
it's kind of nice. It feels good because you get a little salty.
I know.
Because sometimes it does feel get a little.
I said it to Landon the other day, and he was like, looked at me so confused. I'm like, it's from a movie. You would get it. Your dad would get it.
But wouldn't you agree that it feels good to be a little salty sometimes?
Absolutely.
Oh man,
especially that time of the month. I'm very salty.
Very salty. So one thing I've really learned through the years is pleasing God, not man. And I used to be like a really big people pleaser. And, I think when it's interesting because if you talk to other pastors' kids, we understand like the life. It's a sacrifice. There's a lot of things that occur when you're a pastor's kid. And I'm talking about like expectations. Like you feel like you're in a fishbowl and everyone has expectations on how the pastor's kids should act and all that kind of stuff.
Or what they should
and mind
be doing.
You, we're kids. Mind you, we make mistakes. Mind you, we get grass stains. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. It's just like we're kids. Like, but and so growing up with that, like it was never like pressure on my parents' side of it. It was always just like, people would say things and blah, 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 blah. But I didn't really notice it as a kid. It was more when I was a teenager. I really started understanding what people were saying and all that kind of stuff. And, just people are cruel. Like it's just what it is.
Yeah.
And so with that, I kind of picked up the mentality of like, pleasing people and like not acting myself. So what happened is I wouldn't even have my own opinions anymore. Like my opinions would change into other people's opinions. So depending on who I was with, I'd be like, oh yeah, I don't like that either. Oh no, I like that. No, I don't like, it would be things like that where it was just like I didn't have backbone because I felt like I had to just like please people and like just be their friend, agree with everything. Like, that kind of thing where it was just like, if they didn't like vanilla bean ice cream, I didn't like vanilla bean ice cream. And it's so basic stuff. But then there was also some other extremes as well. There was a time where I got really convicted with that. And it was like, the Lord was like showing me, like it was a verse I read or something. And I was just like, my goodness, I am not pleasing God.
Yeah.
I'm actually pleasing man. Because there's a calling that God has given me. And I'm not living up to that calling. And I know what it was. And it was like, it almost like a light bulb went off in my head where I'm like, wow, God's given me a calling. And I'm not being confident of the calling He's given me because I'm too worried about the noise over here.
Right.
It was honestly, I think, one of the best seasons of my life because there was complete breakthrough. And if you're a people pleaser, you understand this. And if you're a people pleaser who broke down those walls, you really understand this.
Yeah.
That it was like, I felt like I came up for air for the first time in a long time. Because it wasn't my whole life, but there was like a season.
Right.
There was a couple year season where I came into this really, like, I was very depressed. Like the first couple years of our marriage, I was in a very dark space.
Yeah. When I think about the Justin then, 14 years ago till now, completely different people, like completely in that aspect. And it's amazing, like the growth you went through. And I do think like a lot of it, like even during COVID, that was a hard time. Like there's so many people, different opinions and stuff. And so you couldn't please people then. Like you just couldn't. No. There was so many different things going on in the world, especially with dealing with things in the church and the amount of people that would come to you with things. And so for you to finally just stand alone and be like, I'm pleasing God and doing what He's called me to do, not man. Like you were such a like happier person and you just had this weight lifted off of you. It was so cool to see.
But yeah, that was definitely a milestone where I still look back on where I'm like, I have to be confident in the calling God has given. And I also surround myself with like awesome people who have the best interest for me in mind, not themselves.
Right.
But also they love God, most importantly. And I believe that, I think it's in the Proverbs, that there's safety in numbers. And so like now I know the calling God's given me, whatever those things are. And so I'm confident, number one, in that. But now and then I pray through those things. I don't do things to please people. I want to please God. But I have these people I can go to say, hey, like, this is kind of what I'm thinking. What do you think? And it's just nice because I can actually like have these conversations and make sure that I'm in the right spot. And so, because, ultimately, like, I'm not saying like, never listen to people. That's not what I'm saying. Because I think God puts people in your life for these reasons.
Yeah.
But most importantly, though, like, if God's telling me to do something and it's really the Lord, like, and I'm not listening to that, that's what I learned. Is like, I don't want to ever live that life again where I was rather listening to man than God.
Well, and you weren't happy in that
Wasn't happy
either.
at all.
You were just on this, like, just crazy train.
Well, I was in the darkest place in my life. I was so depressed.
Right.
Like, I don't mean, that was in a way, I look back on that, and there's been so many, like, youth I've been able to, like, talk through depression.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because of that dark spot.
You've been there.
So, in a way, like, the Lord used it for good. But it all stemmed from that. It stemmed from not just listening to God. Like, obeying him.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's something that really, I think, looking back on, I'm like, thank God. Because that was... But I had to go through it. I had to go through that for me to really understand what that meant.
Yeah.
And but yeah, that was a hard moment.
I think one verse that you really, I think, hung on to during this time, and it helped me when I went through a pretty dark time, was, trust in the Lord with all your heart. And you broke it up into like 3 steps. You're like, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Don't lean on your understanding. So what that meant is you just can't lean on what was going on in here, and then in all your ways, like, acknowledge him. And then he made your path straight. And that helped, like, I feel like that helped me through sometimes too.
Well, the 3 steps was, because in that time, I'm like, God, I don't know what, like, where are you at? Like, where's, it'd be like David, in the Psalms where he's like, God, where the heck are you at? And then at the end of the Psalms, like, oh, you're my strong tower, my fortress. But it'd be those moments where I was like, God, what's your will for my life? Because I am like, I can barely even like breathe right now. So it was like 3 things you needed to do basically to know God's will. Trust in him, lean not on your own understanding, all your ways acknowledge him, and then if you do those, he will make your path straight. He'll direct your steps. And so what's God's will for my life? Those 3 things. Do those things, and he is then going to make your path straight, or whatever the case may be. So I really started understanding that. I also realized the verse, because I was pretty anxious at that time. Like, be anxious for nothing, and like talking about like God's peace that transcends all understanding. Talking about like giving God thanks, letting your requests be known. Like, I would do that on the daily.
Yeah,
like,
and you almost had to do it like multiple times a day. You were telling me when you were helping me through my
another
time.
thing was keeping your thoughts captive to the obedience of Christ. So if I'm like, if these thoughts are worthless, I'm going to pray immediately and say, God, like, get these out of here. Like, these are not good thoughts. These are not good thoughts. And there would be times that I would have to pray, I'm not over exaggerating, like 100 times a day, like small prayers. It'd be like, God, this is a worthless thought. It's gonna trigger me, and I would like pray it out. And man, it totally changed my life because, again, I was focusing my life and prioritizing pleasing him, not man. Pleasing him, not giving into these thoughts. Pleasing him, it was all about obeying and pleasing him. And it completely transformed my life.
But anyways, these transformations, I feel like I'm so thankful for today. Like, looking back on those times, if you did not put in the work and you just went continuing on being that people pleaser Justin, or I didn't put in the work in me and I just went down on like, I can't do anything, and I'm, not ever wanting to apply for jobs because I had no confidence. Like, I just can't imagine where our life would be. And I'm just so thankful, like, just looking at our family now, our business, just the things the Lord's done, but just I'm glad we, definitely took time to put in the work and changes in our lives too.
Well, I mean, we all have a choice. We all have a choice,
right?
So it was just choosing to like obey, the Lord. It was choosing to, put away those things. It was choosing to want to have a better life. It was choosing to, if we work hard now, it's just a season. So instead of just waving the white flag or, just complaining or why is my life so hard or whatever, like, woe be like, woe is me. Yeah. Throw the victim card down. It was like, no, we're going to choose to work hard, and and we told ourselves that this is just a season. this is just a season. Even the season seemed really long.
Yeah.
Still was just a season. We're on the other side of that. And we're like, it was just a season.
Yeah.
And so, and honestly, like, you know, we had people that we looked to that continued just showing up, continue to have faith, continued to just persevere, you know, and, you know, have those people around you. And just keep on showing up, keep on pushing, keep on persevering, keep on having faith, and keep on just, you know, obeying his commandments. Like, just obey. Right. You know what I mean? And it's awesome. Anyway.
Yeah.
So.
But I thought we would end it just kind of just sharing, because I know we've both gone into depth and just our areas of transformation, but just briefly, like, one thing that you've noticed in me since you've known me for this time that you've seen change in for the better, and then one thing I've seen in you that I've noticed change in for the better, I think would be kind of cool. But the thing I was going to say was a lot of what you brought up, and that was the people pleasing area, because that was a big thing.
It was a huge
in our life.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, newly married, you know, we'd be in our house and he'd get a phone call and we'd have like stuff going on, and he'd be like, I'm like, well, I'll see you in 3 hours, because people would just suck your time. But you, like, because Justin, he has a heart for people. Boundaries. He had no boundaries, to the point where he would just like talk people to hours, just, you know, to get them back on, you know, just doing okay. And like, to the point where he put his needs and his, you know, the time he barely had to himself aside, because, you know, again, the people pleasing, you know, caught in. And to see you now where you're like, I'm not going to answer that phone call, or I'm not going to do that right now, or I, you know, and just having wisdom when you say yes and when you say no with things is just night and day. So I'm just like so thankful for that transformation in you, and just to see that, and like, you're still doing exactly what you're called to do. And I just think it's so cool. And like, I was so jealous, in a, not a envious way, but jealous. I'm like, wow, like, I want that confidence. Like, last year I really struggled with some things, and just in saying yes and no, because sometimes I can just get in this mode where I can get people pleasy. And so Justin just shared with some things he did, and I was just like, he's like, just say no, just have confidence in it, you don't need to give him a reason. I'm like, okay, I can do this. And so he really helped me with those areas, and I'm just really proud of you. Just seeing that growth has been huge. So cool. So that was what I was going to share, which was already, you know, your big one, obviously.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, I think for you, as far as we first got married, there was definitely an issue of communication.
I didn't communicate well.
Yeah, and so I come from a family who like probably over communicates. She came from a family that didn't really communicate, and so it was just like both ends of the spectrum. So, you know, just learning to, because what would happen is I would do something, it would frustrate you, and you would hold it in like a ticking time bomb, and then it'd just be like, boom. And I'd be like, dude, we're talking about 3 weeks. Like, and I remember I used to bring up like you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I was just like, if you're gonna teach a dog, you gotta teach him in the moment. Yeah. And I was referring to me as the dog, you know. And I was just like, if I do something wrong or something that's irritating
I would
or
just
whatever,
let it build and build and build,
because I have no idea I'm doing it.
Right.
And I think that freaked you out, because she's like, I don't want to offend you. I'm like, I rather you tell me now than like a 3-week span of me doing something that's been irritating you.
Oh my gosh, I struggled with that so much.
So I think I'm proud of you too for just like learning that, because that's a hard thing, and learning how to communicate, and then also, you know, being bold to actually just be like, actually, like, this is the issue. Actually, like, you know, and not letting the sun go down on your anger kind of thing, but like learning to do that, because it's not just with us, it's with anyone. Like, you don't hold grudges, you don't hold, like, you know, basically you don't have a hidden agenda. But learning to communicate in that scene has now made it so you can be a good communicator in a lot of different things. So you teach classes on communication, you've you know, about like how to have boundaries and set boundaries and to be bold and those kind of things. Like, you've been able to do that on different kind of levels that you never ever probably thought you could, because of learning how to be bold in the communication department and how to be good at it.
Yeah, I really struggle with speaking up in anything. Yeah.
And now you can speak up for for you, even in hard situations where like you have to, like it's toxic and you have to like set a boundary. But even people like look at that, but man, Lacey's so good at like setting the right boundaries that are toxic, like things that people wouldn't want to touch because you're like, oh my gosh, I wouldn't want to go there. Like you could be bold, be like, no, this is not right. Yeah. You can speak up for that. But it's never like in a judgy tone. It's always like in this like grace and this love, and people respond to it in such good ways. Like when you have to have a hard conversation with someone, you know, we all do. We all have to have like hard conversations with people. And confrontation is horrible. Yeah. We all hate it, but you've learned to be really good at confrontation in a way where it usually goes really well.
That's cool, because that was definitely not even existent when we first got married. And I was more the type like, I'm just going to be quiet and not say anything, or I'm just going to go hide, or let's just not ever talk again.
Or hold a grudge or something.
So I definitely had to work at that one. Yeah. For sure. So that was a hard thing to learn, but that's cool to hear that you've seen that in me as well. Wow. This is a long podcast, you guys. If you are still here, thank you. I hope it was encouraging to you guys and help you just to kind of self-reflect. What are those moments and those areas you can look back on and you're like, that is not the same person anymore. Like, I don't even know who that is. And for the better. So
yeah, if it wasn't for that time, yeah, I wouldn't be here today. Or, right. You know, that's what's crazy about it is looking back and you can see God like all the way through those moments in life where Absolutely. It's like, man, God allowed this for this reason. And if this doesn't happen, this wouldn't have happened. And then if that didn't happen, that wouldn't have happened. You can just kind of see that. And that's what blows me away.
I know. In his hand.
It makes me excited to know, like, even when you're in hard season, so maybe you're in a hard season right now, to know that it is just a season. Like I always like to say, like, there's always a beginning, a middle, and an end of a storm. You could be in the beginning of a storm. You could be like in the eye of the storm, or it could be in the end. But it is a season. And so, but honestly, if it wasn't for those storms or those hard seasons or those rough seasons or those busy seasons, we wouldn't have been able to, learn how to obey God and not please man.
Right. Release things, surrender things.
Yeah.
So much good came from all of it for both of us. So. Yeah. But thank you guys so much, as always, for listening and commenting and sharing. We're so thankful for you guys. And we will see you guys next week.
See you guys.
Bye.